Hi there, I'm Peter Millard, and in this week's 10-minute workshop, well, the torture chamber rides again. It's coming up next. Okay, so yes, another vacuum video. When I did the Festool bag in the Aldi vacuum video, produced lots of great comments, as these videos always do, and some of the comments were pretty evenly split actually, either for people saying, wow, you seem terribly concerned about those temperatures, and the other half saying, wow, you don't seem at all concerned about those temperatures. The way the test was set up, obviously we're capturing the exhaust to measure the air quality, and it's pretty intensive because I think, as I said in the video for the Aldi, a minute sanding would produce 16 times as much air as our little torture chamber, capture chamber can hold. So it would be, it's not an absolute value, it's the relative value between the two tests that was important. The same with the temperature as well, because we're capturing the air, because it's kept together. In normal use, that warm air would dissipate out into whatever room you're working in. Ask anybody who's done a lot of sanding with a vacuum attached in summer, for example. They'll tell you in a small workshop, certainly that gets pretty warm pretty quickly. Nice in winter, not so nice in summer. So obviously the temperatures that were achieved weren't realistic. Also, my little probe thermometer runs hot by a couple of degrees. These aren't accurate, but it's the relative temperatures, not the absolute, that we were concerned with. But it became apparent fairly quickly that there was probably another test to do, another leg to this stool, or maybe another spoke to this wheel, and that's to run the same tests again, but with a Festool vacuum, just for comparison. Now, fairly obviously, these aren't ideal circumstances for a third leg of the test, because we're a couple of weeks further on, everything's changed. I do still have the test chamber, or cardboard box as we call it, exactly as it was, and I've reapplied the same amount of filler as best I can. I knew how much it was before because I weighed it, so I've done that again on the same piece of board, so we'll be able to roughly test that. And really it's a question of just setting everything up as close as we can and redoing the test. As I say, it's not ideal, it's not going to be perfect, but it's the test we've got, and I think it'll be interesting anyway, just to see what sort of temperatures that the Festool CTL SYS runs at after a minute of sanding filler. Okay, so as best we can, we've got everything sorted as it was. We've got a new bag going in a Festool vacuum. So, we've got the standard Festool hose in there, connected. We've got the Bosch sander connected to there. Oops. Got the sander connected to the hose. And we've got a fresh sheet of P120 abrasive, just as we had before. We've got, so the dust port on the Festool is on the back here. So we're going to tape this in with tape, which is here. So it comes just over the dust port as it did in the previous one. Let's sort of go in. That's recording. That's ready to go. Temperatures are all good. You're recording. That's recording. Good to go. I'll have to move you back a bit. 1 minute timer. So 1 minute timer starts now. There we go. Okie dokie. Well, let's start with the obvious things. So we'll see what happens. I'll need to take that away and look at the numbers again, as we did before. But let's take away a little sanding board. Let's see what's going on here. Again, there's a little pile of filler dust down here. I've got to take another look at the Bosch sanding test. I don't remember it being this bad, I have to say. No, I've got half a sanding board left. Maybe once everything's calmed down a little bit, I'll just for the sanding test, I'll repeat it with a Festool sander, just to see what's going on really. But let's got to unplug the microphone for a second. So yes, not hugely different, I don't think, on the sanding test anyway. But we'll see what the numbers say when we get that back and take a proper closer look at those, and then we'll come back and do a bit of a conclusion. Fingers crossed. Okay, so we're going to run this test again. Whoops. What we've done, we've changed the Bosch sander for the Festool RTS 400 with a new sheet of P120 granite. We've changed, what have we done? We've reset everything as it was. The starting points are going to be a little bit higher because we just haven't had time to let everything settle out. And it's really as a curiosity more than anything to see how the to see how the sanding test compares to the Bosch after all this time. But we'll give that a try. I didn't use this extractor on the previous test. I used my big one down under the bench there. So it'll be interesting, I guess. So yeah, starting points, both temperature and particle count are a little bit higher because we just haven't had time to let them sort of settle down. But this is all running, you're all running. Need to get my ears on and then get the timer going. Okay, so I mean this is pretty amazing. I'm going to have to do here what I did before as well, and actually put a little mark on a piece of tape either side of the board where the line should be, because once again this is pretty amazing. CTL SYS RTS 400. Okay, so I'm going to take that board away. And there we are. Yeah, let's. Gonna have to unhook you for a sec and take the. Sorry about this. Okay, so obviously we'll have a look at the temperatures and whatnot on a chart, on a graph, and come back with a conclusion. But in terms of the sanding test, yeah, yes, this vacuum is shifting half as much air again as the Aldi vacuum, but the difference between the Bosch sander and the Festool sander is pretty astounding. Again, still, it's nothing short of pretty incredible, frankly, to have that almost no line there at all. Yeah, what can you say? Efficient dust extraction. That's one of the reasons why I use Festool sanders and vacuums. If that's not a big deal for you, then the Bosch is a great little sander, but honestly, it's just no comparison in terms of dust collection. Anyway, I need to get the video back from the monitors. We'll process that. We'll pop back in a bit and have a little sort of roundup conclusion for you. See you in a minute. Okay, so I've crunched some numbers and I've got a bunch of charts, and I'm going to try and make some sort of sense out of them. So back at the start we had the Aldi vacuum with the Aldi reusable bag, and that gave us sort of a basic benchmark when we were sanding filler. Then we popped the Festool disposable bag from the CTL SYS into the Aldi vacuum, and we did a bit more sanding with the Bosch sander, and that gave us a different set of readings. It kind of made sense then to continue the test on and actually use the CTL SYS vacuum with the Bosch sander and do those tests again, and lo and behold we get a slightly better set of readings again. Just for fun, I did the test again with the Festool RTS sander and not the Bosch, and that was a real eye-opener. That was massively better, not just in terms of the actual dust extracted, so a much better sanding test, much more extraction at the tool, very little dust left on the black bag, but in terms of the actual dust that was captured, I mean it's on that scale. It was so small I've actually had to rescale them. In fact, taking the CTL SYS vacuum and the Bosch sander up to a top value of 3,500, you can see, on that chart how many more particles there are of the 1 micron or less size. But when it peaks at just under 3,500, about 3,400. But when you get the CTL, the Festool vacuum and the Festool sander together, it peaks at under 1,000, under 8, probably about 700 or so. I've got the numbers written down. That's pretty amazing. A combination of extractor and sander together that are built and intended to have good dust collection just makes a phenomenal difference. The only slight surprise for the whole process was on the temperatures, and where the Festool bag in the Aldi vacuum actually ran cooler, the Festool vacuum with the Festool extractor actually ran hotter. Now, I didn't let it cool down that much between doing the first test and the second, and in fact it's still cooling down now. It's still at 27 degrees, and it was 25 when it first started. So it was the Festool extractor with the Bosch sander, the temperature was 25 degrees when it started and rose to 42 degrees. But with the Festool sander, it started at 29, but it rose to 54. So quite a bit warmer. Now, as I say, I don't think that's any great problem. Sanders and vacuums run pretty warm. It's 1,000 watts there. And I would guess that as the bag starts to clog, and I know the bags in these do clog fairly quickly when you're sanding filler, and obviously it's capturing a lot of dust because you can see how little filler dust was left on the actual black bag there. I guess the reduced airflow makes the heat rise. Interesting that it didn't work that way with the Bosch sander. Then the Bosch sander was leaving that much more dust behind on the black bag. So in conclusion, yeah, if you want dust-free sanding or close to dust-free sanding, use a Festool extractor and a Festool sander, because that's That's going to be your best bet. That's it for this week, though. I hope you've enjoyed. I don't know if it's enjoyable. I hope you found this interesting, at least. If you did, give the video a thumbs up and do tell your friends about it. But that's everything for now. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.